Well, we're 5-4, and big picture perspective at this point says we're in the playoff hunt. So I don't see that. I'm not right now. I'm not concerned about that at all. I believe in the men in that locker room, and I'm excited about where we're going. This is our first year together, so you have to keep things in perspective. Like I said earlier, we build on what we do well, and we correct what we didn't do well. This is the growing pains you go through when you come in and you try and get things going the right way. And like I told you before, I knew it wasn't going to be easy in the first year. Right now, we had 2 games back-to-back that wasn't up to our standard, and sometimes that happens as you're going through this process. And there's pain in the process also, and that doesn't make it easy. It just means you got to work through it. Well, you got to look at it and say, number one, you got to own what we did do well and what we didn't do well, and a lot of it we didn't do well. And that starts with gap integrity and fundamentals and technique in taking on blocks and staying in our gaps. And that's where we have to improve. We've played good run defense even when Marcel was in the building, but not on the field. We've played good run defense, and I expect us to do that going forward. It was an effort. It really wasn't. I mean, the guys have prepared all week long, and prepared last week like they have in other weeks, and probably even more prepared than in other weeks. And on the field effort, the effort was there. It's fundamentals and technique. Now, did we get worn down? We did, and that's what happens when you can't stop the run early in the game. You get worn down over time, over 3 or 4 quarters of the run that continues to hit on you. That's what happens in this game, and we've done that to teams on the other side of the ball. So that's a wearing down effect throughout the game. But effort was there for the most part. But fundamentals and technique weren't where they needed to be. Well, I understand where they're coming from on that. Nathan's, he's a good player. I like what he did yesterday, I think that he did some good things in the game yesterday. So, I know where they're coming from on that. I thought we came out the first drive and we were into a rhythm and did some good things early there. And then after that, we struggled. We were challenged and we could have done some better things, obviously putting points on the board. And so, when you play a team like the Saints who are going to score points, that's been their MO for years. You've got to score points on the other side of the ball. You have to possess the ball in order to keep their offense, their high-powered offense, off the field. And so, we didn't do a good enough job of that, obviously. Well, because I believe in Tyrod. Tyrod's our starter. That's what I said yesterday. I know what Tyrod's done, and I also know what Nate's done. So Tyrod's. Well, there's times when you have to check the ball down. That's either where the reads take you or the smart play, and then there's other times when this is a league of contested balls. That's how this league works, and so there's a give and take there, as we all know. So I've seen Tyrod grow. I've seen Tyrod do some things better this year than he did last year, and that's part of his growth process as well as our team's growth process also. Well, you always have to keep big picture perspective, and keep our obviously one eye on what we're doing and what's in front of us, and once in a while keep an eye on the future in terms of the vision for this football team. I've been around Mike for a number of years in Carolina. I know what he brings to the table. I know what he's done this year at times. And so from that, I'm extremely confident. Right, Josh. That's part of the reason behind the Leadership Council, is so that I know the pulse of the locker room and keep the lines of communication open. As a head coach, you're around every player, but you don't have a chance to be around every player as long as you want to be, just because of the scope of the job. So that gives me a feel that represents all parts of the locker room, every position, and they've been a big asset to me so far.
Do you talk to them even more right in the last 2 weeks?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. We try to in terms of the communication. That's, for me to lock myself into my office and try and figure it out all on my own. Certainly that's one approach, but in this case, that's not the right approach. And the communication, the listening, and then also my communication to the team of what our standard is and what's acceptable in terms of up to our standard, and then what wasn't up to our standard. Yeah, that's a big part of it. You put in a lot of work to go out there and perform the way we did yesterday. That's not acceptable at all. Not acceptable. Well, you look at, over the years when you put together a plan and when you become a veteran player, plans get out there that, hey, just like a pitcher in baseball, the first year a pitcher comes in and he hasn't been on tape. Some things happen, and then the longer you're on tape, you're going to have good days and bad days, and then naturally, when there's a bad day, or you face adversity, people will say, well, is that going to be the blueprint? That's a question for the future opponents. Certainly, we have to pay attention to that and learn from that also. I think, honestly, I think the game got away from us earlier than we wanted it to, obviously, at all. But it got away from us from a point standpoint, and we had to, really get into the passing game, the drop-back passing game earlier than we wanted to.